Welcome back to CLIC Connect. I'm your host, Craig Sullivan. We've got a great guest for you today, and we're going to be talking about labor and hotels, a few other things as well. But before we do that, I would like to thank our production partners, our good friends at Red Roof Franchising and Chicago Title National Commercial Services Group, California. Now, with Chicago Title, you know you got to get your deals closed on time, and they're there to help you. So even though they're based in California, they work across the country. They've got a hotel-focused team. So they're closing deals on time. And, we had a little bit of an issue with the banks recently. So, you need a group that can get your title and escrow deals closed on time. Chicago Title is definitely it. You can talk to Ryan Huntsman over there. You can talk to Steven Senft over there and Stephanie Zapalak. And they'd be more than glad to help you. And then our friends at Red Roof. Matt Hostetler has an incredible team. They've got about 50 new hotels coming online this year. So give Matt a call. Red Roof's a great alternative for you. Hear what they have to say. They've got a soft brand. They've got an extended stay brand. They've got their economy brands. They'd love to hear from you. And please let both groups know that producer Danny and I sent you over there. So with that done, and thank you to both Chicago Title National Commercial Services Group, California, and Red Roof Franchising, we're going to start our show. We've got David Donnelly joining us, and he is a talent optimizing specialist, a servant leader, a talent recruitment strategist, and a collaborator. And he's with Gecko. So let's bring David in now. David, how are you?
Hey, Craig. Happy belated St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you, my friend. A day that's near and dear to my heart. And if I had an Irish accent, I would never stop talking.
Yes, one Irishman to another.
Exactly. My friend, thank you for joining us today. Do me a favor. Would you tell the audience about yourself and your company?
Sure. Dave Donnelly. I am a lifelong hospitality person. Started in the business when I was about 15 years old as a dishwasher and a porter in a restaurant. Moved my way up until it was time to get out of operations and started with Gecko Hospitality. We are the nation's premier hospitality recruiting firm, based in Fort Myers, Florida, and I am here in Southern California.
Wonderful. All right, my friend. Labor.
Yes.
Post-COVID. Through current, what are the current hiring and staffing situations in hospitality?
That's a great question. It's been kind of a wild ride. Can you believe it's like the 3rd year anniversary of when all this COVID madness started?
Yeah.
I remember I was actually in Michigan, which is another one of my territories, doing development, and then the COVID thing had hit, and I had to come back early. But right now, AHLA still says that 85% of hotel owners that responded to their survey are struggling with labor. There is a high turnover right now. They say that they're somewhat somewhat understaffed or severely understaffed, and 22% say they are severely understaffed. So it was hard finding people pre-COVID.
Right.
It's even more difficult right now because we had so many people leave the industry. They're still saying we're about 400,000 jobs short in hospitality. And I think 250,000 of those are in hotels. So, these numbers are kind of, they're fluid. So they kind of go back and forth. And as you know, costs are up. Cost per occupied room is up 15%. So labor's an issue, obviously, and COVID did not help with the trend, and it's continuing to. I don't even know if you can say it's flattening out yet or not. It's still a big issue.
I don't think it is flattening out, and I think labor is going to be a key subject for at least the next 12 to 18 to 24 months. And as you know, it was for the first time at the California Lodging Investment Conference, that was a panel. That was the topic of discussion. Now, I know following the job numbers every month that hospitality has been leading the way for at least the past 4 months. Well over 100,000 people brought into hospitality jobs, and it truly isn't enough. We've still got a lot of hotels that are running minimal crews. Um, we were recently at a full service hotel, and their Starbucks was only open from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m., which I thought was rather interesting. And that was due to staffing.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's, there's just so many factors in it, but I still feel that our messaging is not correct, that we're not getting the word out there that this is a noble profession,
Yes.
a career with advancement opportunities, educational opportunities, and you can take it as far as you want. If you want to be a GM, you can do that. If you want to go in and be on the transaction side, you can do that. I know a lot of people that, were revenue management or, revenue enhancement people that are also now doing deals. They're good at numbers. Okay.
Yep.
So bring them into the C suite, let them find somebody else. We've got all these hotel schools that, and people like you, recruiters out there, let's put the packages together and get them out there. So let's talk about that importance of proper messaging with attracting and retaining and onboard talent in today's market. What are your thoughts on that, David?
Yeah, you make a great point about what hospitality has to offer as an industry for, anybody that wants to come through the doors. I mean, as I started in hotels as a banquet bartender, I moved my way up to a food and beverage director and a member of an executive committee. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I don't think that a lot of the hotel companies are messaging that correctly. When you're getting somebody into your organization through, let's say, marketing a job, what is your job ad saying? Is it just the same bullet points of what the job is about, or are you explaining what your company can do and what your career could be inside of a hospitality industry? And then once you get somebody in, what's the onboarding process like? I think we talked about this last time I was on. When I started, it was like, here's your keys, and this is how old I am. Here's your pager, and we have an open door policy, so come by if you need anything, right? And then how do you retain those staff members that make it through the onboarding process? What is the incentive for them to stay? Is there growth opportunities? Are you checking in with them to see how their career is going and how their job is going? So I think there's an important aspect to when you're starting the recruiting process, through the onboarding process, and through the retainment process. What is your value statement, your mission statement? And I know those sometimes are hollow, and they're not necessarily functional for the operation on a day-to-day basis. So that has to be kind of mixed in together with proper staffing, because if you're short staffed, somebody's going to leave. And as you were saying, we're gaining 100,000 jobs every month for the last 4 months, but how many are we losing in the last 4 months? And that's why we keep trying to gain jobs.
Absolutely. Now, as a recruiter, you're trying to put the best package together for the applicant and the best package for the employer.
Yeah.
Um, is education part of that? Are you seeing that, the management companies, the owner operators are willing to put education back on the table as a benefit? That, you go take these classes and you pass, we'll pay.
Yeah.
Is that part of the packaging now?
Some are doing that. Yeah, some are. I mean, I think most larger companies like the Marriotts and the Hiltons, the Hyatts, they do have Ambridge. They'll have an educational reimbursement situation or package. A lot of the mid-sized companies, maybe not, but it's not talked about enough. When I'm onboarding a new client, a lot of those benefits that we talk about are pretty much the same. It's medical, health, dental, 401k. They're still not doing anything with, maybe childcare credits or childcare hours or any type of, education. But yes, it's an important aspect when you're trying to attract talent. I don't think that COVID has really given us the lessons that it gave us. I don't think we're taking in those lessons
Right.
as
Yeah.
hotel operators and applying them. It's kind of business as usual. Like it's almost like, oh, we kind of got over that. We can go back to how we were doing business and things haven't changed. I know we're adding a lot of technology. You're doing like these keyless entries and check-in kiosks and things like that, but that's not going to solve that issue.
Hey, you got your phone. You can check in
Yeah.
on that. And
Right.
QR codes everywhere so that you can bring up the menu and order and all of that. And it's I'm one of the people that feels that medical benefits should not be tied to employment. I feel that that is a right.
Yeah.
And I know my last few years either working for a publicly held company or a private company, my employment package was that they had to pick up 100%.
Mhm.
Okay. I didn't pay for it. My feeling is if it is a right and I'm paying for it, that money that it's costing them, that can go into a higher salary. That can go into a 401k sort of kind of match program, a few other things that are more
Mhm.
beneficial. Um, I think one of the other big problems and almost the elephant in the room is we have a tendency of calling the same people back on site for holidays and overtime instead of spreading that out more. And sometimes it's just an absolute necessity. So, how are you being creative with that? I mean, it's one thing to put money into somebody's pocket at time and a half or double time, whatever it may
Mhm.
be, but I'm one that believes in a work-life balance. Now, I didn't believe in that the vast majority of my career working in publicly held. One of the reasons was I was told I was a cog and always replaceable, which is pretty screwed up, and it's a horrible way to treat employees.
Exactly.
Um, Now, are they giving them additional personal time off to, instead of a week's paid vacation, now they've got 8 days or 9 days or 10 days, whatever it may be, or 2 weeks. Are they adding on to that as part of the packaging to retain talent? Is that discussed at all?
Yes, a lot of companies are doing that. They're doing flex time off, things like that, in addition to your regular PTO. Um, some are actually embracing the remote or hybrid model. I mean, it's hard, you can't have your executive chef working remotely,
Right.
obviously,
But you
but
can your director of sales.
yeah, director of sales, salespeople, accounting, things like that. But on the floor people, obviously that's not going to
Right.
happen. But I think a lot of them are leaning towards having more flexible work time, and I think of being more flexible with whatever their needs are. Like as you were saying, working for the publicly traded companies, I was never the smartest person, but I could outwork you. And that's how I kind of got through the hotel management ladder. Is I worked hard and I
Yeah.
was there when you asked me to do something, I did it and I stayed late to do it, right?
Right.
But
And
that
you
was
never complained.
right. I never complained because that's the way it was, right? I think, and if you did ask for, hey, I need time off to do this or that, you kind of got the eye roll, right? Um,
Very much so. Yeah.
yeah, but not, now I think if you're not doing this, you should be. But when people need time off, you need to assist them with that. Obviously, you look out for anybody that's abusing that. Um, but people have needs, and if you're working a lot of hours, especially with being short staffed, if you have one person at the front desk when you're supposed to have three, you should really commend that person and offer that kind of flexibility with them. Definitely.
I agree. And I think that gets into my next question, servant leadership. You've got to have a GM, an AGM, department head that's willing to jump in with both hands. And, is that message gotten through because of COVID finally? I do know a couple of GMs that were relieved of their positions because they wouldn't come out of their offices. And that's just horrible, not only for a guest experience, but more importantly on your staff and your on-site team's experience. If they've got a GM that's just locked in his office the whole time doing reports.
It's funny that you say that, because there was some stat that like 50% of GMs have turned over in the last 2 years. Now, some of that might have to do with COVID and things like that. And one of the things that kind of irks me when we are in that recruitment process is I'll have older general managers that are more than willing to have that servant leadership type of mentality, and that's how they went through their whole career. But they're being overlooked because we talked about this, I think, before, but there's ageism is out there, and they don't feel that maybe the general manager has the energy at where he is in his career. But I find I disagree with that. I think these general managers that have that servant leadership type of mentality are the ones that you want. They're not in their office. They are willing to put in the hours. They are willing to mentor the staff. They are willing to give them that flexibility that they need, because you are so shorthanded. So I think some of the companies need to look at that and say, we do want a general manager that has that seasoned experience and that servant leadership. I think that's where they need to go with that.
I agree. And I think the perfect example of what you're saying is Craig Poole at the DoubleTree in Reading, Pennsylvania. It's the number 2 DoubleTree in the entire nation. And there's a reason for that. And that reason is Craig Poole. A friend of mine, and I think you met him at CLIC 6, Kyle Allison,
yes,
left Chicago to go work for Craig for those mentorships, mentee, mentor, and growth and experience, and to see how things are done, and went to a community that was pretty much decimated in downtown, and they're turning it around. They've now, the same ownership group bought a country club, and they're redoing the entire modeling for events there, and they're doing great with it. Instead of nickel and diming you, because I hate the plus. I see that, every time I'm putting on a conference or something else, it's the plus. And, now the linens, the dishes, the cutlery, are all included. They're not, it's X amount for 100 people, but now it goes to this if it's 105 or 110, 120, and
a $95 gallon of coffee.
Resort fees are another thing that need to go. But
the $200 extension cord.
Oh God, yeah. That's exactly it. That's one of the reasons why producer for my conference, I have him checking the coffee. It's like, okay, cut it off at this time. It's going to go cold and it's going to sit there. No, I'm not paying for 90 gallons or whatever it is. So adjacent to post-COVID expectations, what's the hospitality staff like? What are you seeing out there when you're going into a hotel where they want you to help them bring up their service levels? They know they need to have, more people on site. What are you seeing out there?
Well, I mean, I think you and I experienced that same Starbucks, that was from 6 to 11. I think I got the last coffee in there. But I
you got 250 plus hotel people in the hotel. Yeah.
Right. So what I'm seeing, or what I'm hearing from a lot of the candidates, is that it's kind of same old. I think there's a point where we're at right now where the hotels are so busy that they don't have time to get the people recruited to make them less busy. So we see that the interview process may start, and it may take 2 or 3 weeks before the hotel is decided, do we want to move forward? And then the candidate decides that they're going to move on to another property that may have their ducks in a row, so to speak. So I think that hotels are in that quandary of, we're short-staffed, we're too busy to get ourselves unshort staffed, so to speak. And so that's what I'm seeing quite a lot of. Again, this whole thing with, guests are now expecting their full amenities. I think we're out of COVID, so they want their rooms cleaned every day. And they want those amenities that they expect that were kind of shrank for COVID reasons. They want those back, but yet the labor hasn't caught up in order for them to do that. Now, I deal strictly with leadership positions when recruiting, but I do get a lot of feedback from those leaders that they're spending so much time filling in those holes, those staffing holes, that they have a hard time getting back to me with, they may need an assistant, like maybe the director of housekeeping needs a housekeeping manager, but they're too busy to get back to me in order to arrange these things, and we take a full service from them. We'll say, we'll arrange it. We'll even do it on our own Teams calls for you, but again, it's that quandary you're in where you're too busy to get yourself unbusy, if that makes any sense.
Unfortunately, but I'm going to say that's more laziness than anything else, because, you can keep throwing money at your associates at at the hotel level.
Yeah.
But if you're burning them out, you're burning them out.
Right.
And, you should never be too busy to take care of your team. That's part of being a leader.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between a boss and a leader.
Yeah.
And I'm sure my inflection on the word boss clarified that. But, you've got to take care of them. And I think Kyle made the point, and we're hoping to have Kyle on soon. Just hire one more person.
Right.
Just one.
Yeah. Well, he made a great point about how you're losing business because you're short staffed.
You're tired.
Right.
No, I don't want to talk to you about 200 people coming on from an airplane.
Right. Exactly.
Airport hotel. Yeah. I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. The catering manager who's all by themselves, they're not going to take that extra piece of business. A, because it might affect them, and B, they know that the banquet staff is short staffed and they might not get the service. So yeah, that's hurting business more than people may realize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, my friend, we're going to get into our infamous, maybe popular CLIC lightning round.
I'm in.
All right. All right, here we go. We got 2 minutes on the clock, starting now. Labor.
Shortage.
Conferences.
Fun.
Trophy assets.
Overrated.
Full or select service?
Full.
Favorite airport?
Santa Ana.
Aisle or window?
Oh, aisle.
Favorite airline?
Delta.
Tequila or whiskey?
Water.
Favorite hotel or resort?
Ooh, that's a tough one. My favorite hotel company is probably Marriott. So it's kind of hard to narrow it down to a particular one.
Okay, benefits.
Important.
Hey, you did that with 1:06 left.
All right.
There we go. All right, my friend. Leadership. What do you want the hotel community to know about you and your company? And then it's time for a shameless plug.
All right. Well, I think with us at Gecko, we're all in from the industry. So as far as leadership goes, we've been in those positions. So we understand where they're coming from and we understand how the operations work. So I think it's important for hotels to understand that we know what they're going through and we get it. And if you want me to continue my shameless plug, I will. So you can find me obviously at Gecko Hospitality, which is geckohospitality.com. And my email is david@geckohospitality.com. And I'm here in Southern California, and I have a partner up there in Northern California, and we handle the whole state.
Perfect. And for the second year in a row, David was an exhibitor at the 6th Annual California Lodging Investment Conference. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for joining the conversation, my friend.
Yeah, that was awesome.
You have a good one. Thank you, David.
All right. Thanks a lot, Craig. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, our audience. But before we go, I've got to thank our production partners, our good friends at Red Roof Franchising and Chicago Title National Commercial Services Group, California. Red Roof is growing. Call Matt Hostetler over there. He's got a great development team from coast to coast. They can help you. They're a good alternative in a lot of cases. They've got a soft brand. They've got an extended stay. They've got a new prototype. They've got your economy stay assets as well. So give Matt a call. He'll set you up with one of their development team members and have a great conversation with them and let them know that producer Danny and I sent you. And I'm going to continue to tell you, you've got to get your real estate transactions closed on time. You need a title and escrow company that can help you out, whether it is a loan, a refinance, a construction loan. It's a sale. You've got to be able to close these properties on time. So call our friends at Chicago Title National Commercial Services Group, California. They do have a hospitality practice within that group. They can help you. Call Steven Seft, call Stephanie Zapalak, or Ryan Huntsman. Again, let them know that producer Danny and I sent you. They'd love to hear from you, and they'd love to work with you coast to coast as well. Thank you for joining us. Producer Danny and I are very excited about our 8th season. We've kicked it off with 2 great shows, and we can't wait to get back in the studio and get to the next 2. So thank you for joining us. And remember, be kind, share your knowledge. Now go be amazing.